Welcome to Hope for Anxiety and OCD. One thing that we often see with anxiety is that individuals who struggle will commonly have issues with their digestive system. They may have gone to doctor after doctor, gastroenterologist, have tests run, only to find out that they can't necessarily find anything specific, and it may be tied back to stress and anxiety. Today on the show, I have with me Maggie Roney, who's a licensed professional counselor and certified functional medicine provider. So we're going to be talking about the connection between anxiety and gut health today. Maggie, how did you become interested in additional training? So you started out as a licensed professional counselor and then chose to become certified in functional medicine. How did you get to that route?
I specialize also with trauma and EMDR consultant. And I would see many clients that even as we cleared the trauma, we worked on lifestyle choices and even lowering the stress, they would still be on medications after medications after medications. And I want to make just a side thing here of I am not against medication. It has its place and it's time to use it. But I would have people even just going through so many and they're not working. And then I thought there has to be a different way. There has to be something that can be added or something that can be done. People would want to come off of their medications due to side effects that they did not particularly care for, or that, it worked at first, but now it's not working. So that was one reason. Another is my own health journey. I was 35 and they said, you're completely healthy, but yet I'm on 5 medications. That did not make any sense to me. And none of them were things like insulin or something like that. So as I learned more and I went through my own health journey, I thought, I can really integrate these two and help someone else. And that's whenever I sought out an accredited certification.
Okay. I know a lot of people who have experienced trauma, we talk about how trauma is stored in the body. This is just one way it can manifest in terms of digestive issues, but it can also manifest just in terms of muscle tension, sexual dysfunction issues, whole host of things. And a lot of times people don't necessarily connect that back to the traumatic experience. I know that you and I had talked off air about even autoimmune issues that people have. Oftentimes that's very common with trauma, things like fibromyalgia.
Right. Yes. And it's not even, it's the traumatic, event that even caused that, but it was, lifestyle choices and just stressors that people are going through. And then maybe someone got a virus and then that's what kicks the body into an autoimmune condition.
Gotcha. It's interesting to me how much overlap there is in our emotional, mental health and our physical health. And unfortunately, a lot of times those seeking help is very polarized. Perhaps the counselor may not be talking with the primary care physician and vice versa to really figure out and get to the bottom of what's going on. Have you seen that with your practice as well, that those areas tend to be siloed and people aren't communicating as much?
I have, or when counselors, because I do believe that more often than not, counselors do try to reach out. It's kind of just slid under the rug of, okay, good, you're just taking care of the mental health, that's fine, but you leave everything else to me. So sometimes you have to find physicians that are receptive to different ideas, or even as the therapist, I have this insight. Can you help me understand this part of it? And so that can be difficult, but I do see where there is just not enough communication.
I think it can be hard for clients too. If they're honest with their medical practitioner to say, I have anxiety, they're afraid a lot of times that their symptoms will be dismissed, like, that's just automatically your anxiety, versus fully looking into the different aspects of it.
Right.
So how can functional medicine benefit people in a different way than traditional Western models of medicine?
Unfortunately, with Western medicine, as many advancements as we have made, but unfortunately, it has now become a one size fits all. So if you have anxiety, here's your protocol, here's what you do, here's your prescription. We see you in a month to 3 months or whatever that may be. With functional medicine, we look at you as the individual. What is it that you are needing or could be doing differently? You could have low simmering chronic stress, nothing really, really big, not like a divorce or death or moving, something of that nature, or abuse, anything like that. It could be an extremely high stress job. It can be that you have insomnia for some reason, but then we look at, okay, what's that reason? Do you have a mineral or a vitamin deficiency? Do you have a genetic capability or a genetic condition that makes it to where, okay, you may need a little bit more supplementation in one area versus another? Is it that you have food sensitivities? They are exacerbating these symptoms that you are experiencing. So really is getting down to the root causes for that individual, which unfortunately is a lot of just toxins, crap food, and stress.
And if you're able to eliminate those things, then you're able to feel a lot better physically, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Talk with us about toxins. Like, what kind of toxins do you see that the people are dealing with or consuming? Maybe some that we aren't fully aware of.
Of course, the dyes in our food, the red dye, blue dye, yellow dye, that's really bad, obviously, for ADHD, but then also the anxiety, processed foods, a lot of the foods, we have things that we can't even pronounce, and those have difficulties with the body to break down and utilize for nutrients, and it can create
intestinal impermeability, which we can get into in just a little bit. Other toxins can be our personal care products. For some reason, here in the United States, they allow so many more ingredients that are banned in Europe, and severe fines and shutting down your business if you use them. There's glyphosate, which is Roundup, weed killer. It is FDA approved, even though yet the FDA says, okay, it causes difficulties, but the FDA approves it for our crops to be utilized for weed killer, and then we ingest that. And that has a tremendous effect on our bodies. And another thing, as great as technology is, we all love it, especially over this last year, it saved us. But all of the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi and all of that, it has EMS, electromagnetic fields. That can be very damaging to our health. It causes our cells to oxidize or, cause the free radicals, which are very damaging to us. And then our bodies can't keep up and work on getting those out. It can be heavy metal toxicity. So not just lead, but mercury, amalgam fillings that you had 20, 30 years ago that can still be in the body needing to detox. And if our body doesn't do a job of detoxing, what it does is it just kind of stores it in the body, but then that inhibits functions that make us healthier.
So why is gut health so important to our mental health?
It used to be thought that serotonin and dopamine and all that is just made in the brain. However, they have discovered now, scientists have discovered that in our gut, we actually have a third nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system. And in that, because when we eat foods and the digestive process, even whenever you smell the food, it begins so that it releases enzymes to tell the stomach, hey, get ready. Let's make acid to break down the proteins that are coming and get everything that needs to go to the small intestine, the large intestine, and we will utilize what is needed. Well, in our gut, we make 95% of our serotonin. Then It goes up a nerve called the vagus nerve. That goes to our brain. 60 to 70% of a person's dopamine, which is for motivation, is made in the gut. So if our gut is just trashed, again, antibiotics are needed, but if you are in your 30s to 40s, we came from the age of, we used antibiotics for everything. Sore throat, stuffy nose, headache, you need antibiotics. And so our guts are trashed because we have bacteria that live in our gut that help break down the food, that help intake the nutrients or, utilize those nutrients and get them to where they need to go to be used. And those nutrients are needed to make the serotonin, to make the dopamine. So that's pretty much why the gut is so important.
That's so interesting to me because I don't hear psychiatrists talking about this with their patients when they're prescribing medication for, SSRIs or others for depression. They're not saying, hey, what is it that you're actually eating from a holistic view? Are you eating a lot of processed food? Are you eating a lot of fast food? And we get in this negative cycle where we don't feel good. So then we don't really feel like doing the good things for ourselves to take care of ourselves. And then we're putting that stuff in our body. And then we're back to not feeling good again because of what we ate or how we treated ourselves. It's a hard cycle, I think, sometimes for people to get out of. I mean, would you agree with what you've seen?
Absolutely. You talked about psychiatrists not talking with their patients, and some of them just don't know. And it's not because they're not good psychiatrists, but in medical schools, they take 1 semester on nutrition. That's it. And they take 2 years on pharmacology. And again, highly respected, but unless they go out and they seek further education on that, then they won't know. And I'm sure they don't have time. It's the way it is. But yes, I wish that they would. And I wish that as needed as antidepressants are, or anti-anxiety or anxiety medications, something that we certainly never learned in school, or I didn't, was the longer you take SSRIs, your body just stops making serotonin because it figures, why? We don't need it. It's all whatever's
already
there.
here. Yeah.
So it kind of stops. And then, so when people decide, hey, I want to get off my medication, their body isn't used to making the serotonin. And that takes a little while.
Sure. But it can rejuvenate and relearn to do that.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. That's really interesting because those medications are often prescribed for OCD as well in certain higher doses. I think that this topic is very important. What kind of toll does stress, because you talked about stress a little bit earlier, and anxiety take on the body, specifically related to gut health? Like, how does that stress affect our gut?
Whenever something major happens, your adrenal system goes into overdrive. Okay. That's when your sympathetic nervous system says, okay, it's fight or flight. We've got to go, do. And unfortunately, the brain can't tell us, or it doesn't decipher, oh, they're just doing normal everyday life. They're just really, really busy and they don't sleep long. So no, it just goes simply off of the nerves that are kind of firing in the brain of, we need to enact this. So that can be one thing, just a very high stress life. And you ask people today, are you stressed? No. Okay, well, how much do you work? Well, 70 hours a week. And that's anywhere from 50 to 70, I'm finding is a pretty normal amount. And then I have kids' activities and can't sleep. And then I'm taking care of my mom. And so all of those are stressful factors, even though for us, we have kind of gotten it ingrained in our brains. We go more, we do more, we get more done, and we're better. We're more successful, although we're feeling awful. So it can be something very simmering as a toxic situation at work, a very unhealthy marriage, just kind of day in, day out, to, yes, large event, grief or death or trauma of abuse or anything.
We're definitely living in a day and age where more and more people are experiencing chronic stress. And I think you're right. They've just kind of normalized it. Like, well, isn't this what everybody does? You climb the corporate ladder and you have a family and you have a social life. And, I don't have time to exercise 3 times a week or prepare meals. And a lot of it's in our priorities and what we're choosing to spend our time on.
Right.
So is that something that you do as part of the functional medicine approach, is help people figure out how to make the dietary changes and the lifestyle changes that they need in order to feel better, take better care of themselves?
Yes. And it's not just, oh, I see this on your paper. Okay, so you need to do this, this, and this. We talk about what is the motivating factor for them to keep this behavior in, and then also explaining down to the science of, this is what it's truly doing to your body. And this is how it's affecting your nervous system. And if you are in constant sympathetic nervous system mode, you're not digesting your food. You're not replenishing. You're not sleeping, truly sleeping to where your body restores itself. You're not getting to the place where your body can utilize the food you even eat. It won't even recognize it. Therefore, you're not making serotonin. You're not making GABA. You're not making dopamine.
So being in that fight or flight state really arrests the digestive system, because that has to come from the other part of our nervous system, right? Kind of like that, be more relaxed.
Yes.
Yeah. I think so many people don't know that or don't realize that. What are some small steps you would say that people can take to achieve better gut health?
I would think the first thing is to really look at your schedule and really kind of prioritize what is important for you, and what do you want to accomplish, whether it's in the day or the week, and beginning to really have activities that are self-care, whether it's exercise, yoga, spending time with others, being social. That is very, very important to have those deep relationships with others. Another thing would be to really look at what you are eating. This doesn't mean you have to eat salads all the time and never enjoy anything. Trust me, I love some pizza. And if you put peanut M&Ms in front of me, it's going to be really hard to turn them down, even though I know I'm going to feel awful the next day. And sorry, but I love a good margarita, but at the same time, knowing, okay, I may have to watch when I eat those and things, but watch for the amount of sugar that you are eating. Sugar is terrible for our bodies. It causes such an inflammatory response, even though it may not when you are in your teens and 20s, but it will add up. And kind of begin to look at different areas that you would like to detoxify, and whether that's in cleaning products, because there are chemicals in there that are neurotoxic. There are chemicals in there that affect our endocrine system, which makes our hormones. And there are things that affect our adrenals, which then affects everything in our body. So really looking at all of your products that you have. Another thing would be to, when your doctor says your lab work looks great, you're in good health, actually ask some questions. Kind of look at it. Okay, well, it's within range, but is that the best range for me? And those are some basic areas.
Do you have people that come to you that their labs look great, but they kind of like what you said with your own story, they just don't feel good, or they don't feel like themselves, or they feel like they could be at a better place of health?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Everything is completely within range, the standard range of here's what the lowest person that is normal, here's the highest person that is normal. They're all within range, but it's not at its optimal for that person. And then looking at the relationships with these different results, we can tell, okay, well, I think, you would benefit from digestive enzymes, for whenever the stomach breaks down proteins, or it really kind of indicates you're low in B6 or B9, those types of things, which are B6 is probably one of the most prevalent Bs that is needed to create neurotransmitters and to create energy in the cell cycle.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds like there's a lot of different options that people have, whether that's diet changes, supplement, reducing stress in order to get to a better place.
Yes.
Yeah. And really just trusting that inner intuition of, your own body, and when you feel most optimal and when you don't. Start really paying attention to those cues of like, when I eat these certain things, I notice I feel this way the next day, just like you were saying. Or if I eat those things, I have more energy, or I feel a little bit better. I mean, it can just make a huge difference, just trying to make small changes, being very just in tune with where we're at with our own bodies.
Right. And that is difficult, because I think that we are taught, or at least it seems that way, to just ignore your own body and just keep going. And okay, well, they said everything's normal, so I don't know, maybe I'm making this up in my head. And then we excuse that, as you said earlier, we excuse that as normal and don't even pay attention to it until then we have other things. I've talked to several clients. They will say, I was fine until this year, and then all of a sudden I have type 2 diabetes, and hypothyroid or this or that. And it didn't happen all of a sudden. And we kind of delve into looking at, what happened, the root cause, and working on reversing those issues.
This has been, I think, very informative. So towards the end of every podcast, I like to ask our guests to share a story of hope, which is a time in which you received hope from God or another person.
So I looked at that question. The first thing that came to my mind would kind of, in a way, be my testimony. And I believed as a child, and then through my 20s, just some things happened. And I thought, no God. Well, with my son, when he was in the 3rd grade, he became suicidal. And it was just kind of out of nowhere. It didn't seem right. Something wasn't adding up. And then got him to a different place, a different school. We ended up switching schools. He wasn't bullied or anything, couldn't figure it out. And then decided on medication. Things got a little bit better. The following year, suicidal again. And then a break in the next year, the 3rd year, and then suicidal again.
Wow.
What we eventually found out was, and I know this is extremely controversial, but this is my, story of my experience. And what we found out, it was a vaccine injury. Every time he received this vaccine, it was 11 to 13 days later, he would become suicidal. And again, it didn't click until that 3rd time. I thought something is different. And so he had been on medication for years and years. And through that experience, whenever your child is suicidal and everything, I just said, okay, I don't know what is up there, but just help. I didn't bargain or anything. And literally, when the first time I saw him happy and running into school and the sunlight was shining down on him, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to his teacher and I said, this is hope for me. And I said, and this secures my faith. I mean, it was the most peaceful feeling I had in knowing things were going to be okay. Now, yes, we still had a rough few years and we had to detoxify him of the heavy metals. And now he is off all of his medications and doing great. Does he still struggle with anxiety, when certain things happen, changes and all of that? Yes. But that's why he has tools that he's learned from other counselors. But that honestly was the greatest just moment of hope I've ever had in my life.
That's good. That's good. I think it was very perceptive for you to be able to put those dots together and be able to advocate him to get what he needed at that time and trying to look at it from a holistic point of view. I think that's really important. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for coming on and talking with us about functional medicine and gut health. I think it's been very interesting and informative, and hopefully will help some people kind of think through their life and how they can make further positive lifestyle changes.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Just a reminder that in 2 short weeks, on Saturday, September 11th, we are going to have a webinar on dealing with difficult thought processes. This is a great opportunity for me to be able to connect with some of my listeners, and I absolutely love that. So if you can join us, we would love to have you there. You can find out more information and to sign up by going to www.hopeforanxietyandocd.com/webinar. Thank you so much for listening. Hope for Anxiety and OCD is a production of By the Well Counseling in Smyrna, Tennessee. Our original music is by Brandon Mangrum. Until next time, may you be comforted by God's great love for you.